Welcome to Remember Your Why. I'm your host, Kristen. Today, I'd like to welcome Joe into the studio. Joe, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell the listeners what your sobriety date is.
My sobriety date is March 25th, 2023.
So, you just celebrated a year.
Yes, that's
Congrats.
Monday.
How do you feel?
It feels good. Yeah, it was, I've never had a full year where I was working a program and doing, taking care of myself and doing the right thing. So it feels really good.
It does feel good. It's a good feeling to have. Let's talk about the start of your addiction. How old were you? And did you pick up a drink? How did it start for you?
Yeah, so, it started like in my teen years, with school stuff, parties and stuff like that. It was drinking primarily at first, a little bit of smoking weed and stuff like that. But yeah, it just started off as like a weekend warrior deal, go out to a party on the weekend, and then I was fine during the week, did my school stuff, and then, next Friday it was the same thing. We'd meet up somewhere, usually at like some parking lot somewhere, and then we get together and figure out where we're going for the festivities.
That's true. That is how it was. Meet in a parking lot.
Yeah,
Everybody with their cars. I remember that.
I know, because it was like pre like social media, really, like,
Yep.
and it was like there was MySpace, and that was
Oh,
like
yeah.
a different type of a thing.
Yeah, MySpace. We just aged ourselves, by the
I
way.
know. Yes. No.
So you started,
Nowadays, you just text or whatever and email and stuff like
yeah,
that. Not email, but like Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and
yeah.
then meet
So
up where you're gonna go, and
very different times. It's
yes,
scary actually now.
yeah, it
Way
is.
scarier. So you started with alcohol and you said a little bit of weed.
Yeah,
How fast did that progress from just being the weekend warrior? Did it start to become a weekday thing as well at that age?
yeah, yeah. Not so much the drinking thing, but smoking the weed, definitely. Like it turned into like during the week, and then all of a sudden it was like before school, and then like some break after lunch or whatever, we'd run out, we go, and then we'd smoke, and then we'd come back, and that was like a regular thing throughout my like junior and senior year of high school. Whenever I wasn't doing sports, because during sports, like I really love sports, so I didn't want to like risk any like not being able to play or getting in trouble or whatever. So
Right.
during those seasons, I behaved myself better. But yeah, for the most part, it was a daily thing, riding around and no place really to go because like we were still young, so our parents and stuff, like we were trying to hide it and
Yeah.
do all that craziness.
We were sneaky, weren't we?
Yes, yeah. And
So,
then, yeah,
yeah,
that's
go
when
ahead.
like the manipulating really started, because you had to like show good face and, show the coaches that you're doing the right thing and everything like that. But really, it was like two lives, kind of.
Yeah, it was like two lives and it started young. So how fast did it progress for you?
It was fast. As I transitioned out of like high school, and I got an apartment in the Bronx, and that was really like, because I was too young for that. It was with a girl, so it was like rushed. It was like I thought I was in love. She was the one or whatever, and so I moved down to the Bronx and got an
This was
apartment, and
right
I
out of
was
high
working.
school?
Yeah, it was the next year out of
Wow.
high school. So yeah. So I got the apartment, and then that's when I started, because I was working. She went to school, so like I was working, and then I ended up at a sheet metal HVAC shop, and from there I started to meet people, because in those trades and stuff like that, and then that's when like the pills took off. Again, it was like during that time there was a lot of like, it was super easy to get pills.
Yeah.
Like doctors were literally like pushing it, so they were everywhere. And yeah, so it started like really like so at that point. Then I'm drinking, I'm smoking, and I'm doing the pills all the time. Like
What pills were you taking?
the roxys and oxycontins were like
Oof.
huge back
Yeah.
then. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Like my first real pill was a Opana, and I ended up just drooling on myself, like with my head on the thing. And I like the next day, I wanted to do it again. It was like, and it was pretty like I had to be told how I reacted to it because I was so shot from it.
Yeah.
But
There was an
yes,
attraction there,
literally,
though.
huh?
There was an attraction there to it
Oh yeah,
instantly.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It was like I there was such little tidbits, but I remember the warmth. I remember like feeling nothing, just feeling like king of the superhero. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, then I got into with the wrong people, and it was like the OxyContin 80s, which were like way too strong for a 19-year-old to be like messing around with. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize the power of them at this point. Like I had no idea what addiction or any of that type of stuff was. It was just I thought everybody did it. I thought we were just having fun. I didn't realize like that hold that it had on me lasted until last March of 2023. But at the beginning, I had no idea it was going to be a 15 plus year roller coaster ride that I was going on.
Yeah. Did alcoholism run in your family at all?
Oh yeah, well, I was adopted too, so like my immediate family that who adopted me, um, are like my mom and dad are both like super straight edge Catholic. I grew up doing the CCD thing, and really, honestly, that's why I had to live such a double life because they were so like straight edge and like
Yeah.
super religious. My mom is still to this day, that my dad is as well. But it's just like so. Yeah, being adopted. I don't know if it runs in the family. I'm sure it does. It seems to be a common factor between everybody is that there someone somewhere in the line there's an addiction
Yeah.
present.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a problem. That it begins and then we're surrounded by it, but you weren't surrounded by it. So you didn't really use it as a form of escapism. Like for you, you said it was just kind of like fun and everybody was doing it, right?
Yeah, it was more that. Yeah, in the start.
Yeah.
Um,
Did it get to a point where it became like you wanted to escape your life and just go into that kind of that zone where, like you said, you feel nothing and you think nothing?
Well, yeah, it eventually turned into that absolutely because it was just like I was in the beginning, like when I was in the Bronx in that apartment, like I was just experimenting with everything, like angel dust, cocaine, the weed, the drinking, it was just like a total. It was 100% a part of my life, like from that point, it was just whatever was up, whatever you know what I mean. Whatever was in front of me, I tried and I did, and yeah, it was just looking back now, it's crazy how I didn't realize it then because it was literally it was whatever was put in front of me. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. And now looking
Yeah.
at it, like as being that I have kids now and stuff, it's like I don't know. There needs to be some type of talk I have with them. Like I don't wanna bring it on too early because they're young, but like I didn't have that talk where it's like, it was just like out of sight, out of mind. Like my parents never brought it up like you gotta watch out for this, you gotta watch out for that, or
Right.
be careful and stuff like that. Like I had zero idea of what addiction was until my first rehab. And at that point it was too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you were already in it pretty deep.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would need a detox. I did because I was gonna get sick, and then all that. It's too late at that point. It's like now I'm on the hamster wheel of like,
Hmm.
I don't want to do this anymore. I need to get better, but I need other things to help me detox or whatever. And then you go into a rehab situation and then you meet people. And then it's like, then you got new people to do stuff with and like experiment with. Like, cause again, I started it so young. So I wasn't in a place of wanting to learn anything. I just didn't want to be sick. You know what I mean? I didn't want withdrawals. I didn't want to lose another job or whatever. So I figured like detox would fix that. And it wasn't like
Mhm.
I had to fix myself for that to stop happening.
How old were you, when you went into your first rehab? Was there something that happened that landed you there?
Yeah, my first rehab was in 2012. It was at this point the cat was out of the bag. My parents knew, and it was like you got to do something. So I was mom dated, if you want to call it that,
Mhm.
to a detox and rehab. So I did detox first, and then I did a 28-day program. And again, like that people always say, like when you're in it and you believe it, like I was done at that point. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was away from it for a whole month, like I'm cured. You
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of wild that's how we feel, like, "Oh, everything's fine, we're better," but then you get out.
No.
And
And
did
then
you
yeah,
pick
then
back
you get
up?
out. Yeah, so I got back out of that situation, and I didn't last like but a couple weeks. And I was literally just white knuckling it, and I was because I was still smoking weed. Well, right when I got out, I was smoking weed, but that wasn't a problem. You know what I mean? So that wasn't my
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah.
It was the opiates that was my real problem. So I didn't realize the connection to everything is my enemy. Not just I can't just pick heroin and cocaine. It's like I gotta attack it head on. I gotta maintain sobriety through from everything. It can't just be the ones that get me sick or the ones that brought me to my knees. It's like the sneaky ones are the ones that slowly brought me back over the years.
Yeah, I mean, for people like us with addiction, we need a complete clean slate. Like, we
Yeah,
cannot touch anything, or it can just spiral us back out. So what happened, in between the first rehab, and then did you land in a second rehab as well?
yeah, no, yeah. Rehabs are like they've been so frequent that I don't even remember the exact number I've been to,
Okay.
or you know the total process, which detox. Sometimes I go to detox and I leave, and then sometimes I make it through detox in another 28-day program. I went out to California for a rehab, multiple different types of rehabs. I've done two long-term rehabs, and my most recent one was a long-term as well, where I did 7.5 months there, and then I'm in the sober house now. So this is the one that's kind of stuck. But yeah, but previous to that, there's been like constant effort by me to this, but not the full effort.
Yeah, I mean, it just gets such a hold on you, the using, and it just takes you to a place where that's all you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all you wanna do. So what led you to eventually say, "This is enough. Like, this is it." Did you get in any legal trouble as well?
Yeah, I've had some legal trouble over the years. I had a DWAI situation, which was like, luckily, I would like through the court system and stuff, it was able to get resolved, but it still was I was in it for a long time. And then there was another time that was more recently in 2019, before I went into rehab in 2019. I got into trouble, and I ended up getting sent to jail. So I had to do time in jail, and again, that was not like that was clean time because I was in jail, but it
Right.
wasn't like real clean time. And when I got out of there, so then when I got out of there in 2019, then I went to my first long term, which was very productive, and I firmly I believe I got good time after that because this is
Yeah.
when my kids were young. So I think that helped me stay clean after as well. But yeah, so I did 3 months there that time, and then 3 months of their outpatient. So I had like 6 months before I was going to the world again. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I had like the clarity started to sink in,
Yeah.
and I just did was in trouble, and I did spend time in jail. So that was helping. So it was like the jail, the rehab, my kids, and like wanting to do a different life. I ended up getting a pretty good job. I got my CDL, and I got a pretty good job. So all of that together, like for the next 4 years before I came in this time, um, I was drinking and smoking, not every day, but it was still part of my life. So it wasn't true clean time, but I wasn't sticking a needle in my arm. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
for almost 4 years before this time, I had my shit together. And that's what the disease wanted me to do. It made me believe for years, like, look, I can drink a little bit, I can smoke a little bit, I can keep a job, I
Mhm.
can be a family man, I can be there for my parents. I was totally fooled, and that's the thing that like I try and impress upon like the new guys that are here now. I'm like, take your time and realize like this thing is trying to make you feel good. It's trying to tell you that you're okay, so that your defenses are down, and that is I keep that in the forefront of my mind right now. Like, why am I making decisions, and are they for the best for me? Not like just for instance, picking a job or um, picking a place to leave when I leave live when I leave here.
Right.
It's I want to really think about it. I don't want to rush into anything because that's what I've done. I'm impulsive, and it usually
Yeah.
catches up with me.
Yeah, it's smart to kind of weigh all your options, you know what I mean? And see, okay, what's going to be the best for me? What's going to be the best for my kids? And I think that that's smart and commendable that that's, where you're at and how you're doing that. But let's talk about what led you out before this time that you got sober and have stayed sober.
So yeah, it was as simple as I ran it. I bumped into somebody, and my defenses were down. I did. I try. It was cocaine that got me this time. Like started me off this time. It ended up
Mhm.
being cocaine and heroin. But when I met him, it was at a gas station, and I was like, "Yo, how you been doing?" Blah blah blah. So then, like 2 days later, it was ruminating for the next 2 days. It was just like, "Oh, I bumped into him. I didn't ask him for it right then. It's the weekend. The girl and kids are away for the weekend. Like, I'm not doing it in front
Mhm.
of anybody. No one's gonna see me or whatever." And then it happened. I I called him. We met up like 30 minutes after the call. I was using drugs. And I was like, dude, right after I did it too, I was like, what did I just do? And
Yeah.
then right after that, I was like, at this point, who cares? I already did it. Might as well just keep going with it. And
Yeah,
then
now
I
you
snuck
wanted more.
yeah, and then I snuck it, hit it, went crazy on this tornado cyclone event, trying to hide it from this person, hide it from my job, hide it from my mom. And I was just right back into like the complete chaos of addiction. I was Every night I would sit there and I'd be like, how did I get myself back into this?
Mhm.
How am
Yeah.
I going to get back out of this without anybody knowing? And eventually, as you know, that didn't work. I was found out, I was discovered, and then I really just took off. It was like back to 2012 all over again. And I was like dumbfounded how I got back here.
It's that easy, and that's like the
Yeah.
scary thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever overdose?
Oh, yeah. Overdose is a huge part of my story. And we were talking about that the other day. I mean, I've overdosed more times than I can remember. The
Wow.
times I can remember are 10, like Narcan. Police had to wake me up, CPR from family members, mouth to mouth type of stuff is 10. But there's been many times where I've just woken up and there's been a dresser on top of me because I fell out and I tried to grab it. And then I woke up hours later and I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? Like, why is there a
Yeah.
dresser on top of me? And then
That's
I put the
scary.
links. Yeah, it's crazy.
So you're lucky to be alive, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that there's a stigma against addiction?
Yes, I think stigma is one of the biggest reasons that's kept me out so many times. Instead of me being like, when I did mess up this time, instead of me being like, holy crap, I messed up. Let me ask for help. Let me try and nip this in the butt right away. It was like, all right, I have to do this on my own, in secret. I messed up. Now everyone's gonna think that I'm a degenerate again and all this stuff,
Yep.
and which I did turn back into. But it was like there was a moment. There's always that time where where you know you're doing the wrong thing and you wish you could ask for help, but you don't think anyone would understand. Immediately, you're just like a bad person, which I'm not a bad person. I made bad decisions, but I'm not a bad person, and that's the stigma is like. It's everywhere. It's in the society. It's in your family members. It's on yourself. It's like
Yeah, agreed.
it, it really makes it hard to ask for help when you do slip.
It does. And that's like, why I think that we need to keep, I like to say we need to heal out loud because, like, doing this podcast, everybody that comes on and shares their story, like you, it's so important that people hear that recovery is possible, after everything you've been through. Like you just said, you've had more than 10 plus overdoses. You've had run in with the law. And look at you now. Like we need to promote recovery is possible. It's a beautiful thing. And, nobody is not worth it. Everybody's worth trying to give it a
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. Everybody's worth a second chance, third chance, fourth chance because this thing kills people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And some people will never make it to this point where they can do something like this and do a podcast and try and help somebody, see if it can help anybody. Because I don't wish addiction on my worst enemy. It's it's such a sad, depressing, chaotic, um, self-esteem breaking like scenario that I don't wish it on my worst enemy. And recovery, I wish for everybody, for
Yeah.
anybody that can turn their life around is, or at least try to turn their life around. You deserve that shot, and the stigma takes that from people. Some people never get the shot because they're too embarrassed or they're too ashamed or they're too, you know, um, far into the situation. They just don't have that chance, and it's a sad thing. And recovery is the best thing that I ever decided to do, and it's a lifelong thing to stay with it. But the hardest part is to break that first. I have a problem. Let me ask for help, and after that, it's like you got a shot. But if you don't, if I never asked for that help this time, I who knows where I'd be,
Yeah. Yeah. You may not be sitting here. How is your mental health nowadays, now that you're sober?
My mental health has been a process that I've been going through because of like my addiction and how hard I've gone. I'm trying to find myself. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out what was drug induced and what was like chemically in my brain. So my mental health is really good, but that's because of the program, um, connection with people, like-minded people who have addiction as well. Uh, Therapy is part of my program now, and it's just connection is huge, and that helps my mental health more than anything. I think just talking with you right now is it's making me feel better already. I was nervous to come on, and now I'm just like I feel better. I'm doing something better for myself, and hopefully can help somebody. And that's the biggest part. Just talking, just instead of stuff ruminating in my head, talking about it, talking about anything. It doesn't just have to be about addiction, but mainly for me, it's I need to talk about the addiction, the things that come up that are going to stress me out or whatever.
Yeah.
I do have anxiety. Like it's going to be part of my life, but I've been learning to manage with it now as opposed to medicate it. I'm just managing it, like through these other avenues. And it is possible. I never thought I would be okay in like big group situations and stuff like that. And I call it exposure therapy because I have a safe place to come back to. So I do these things now that I wouldn't normally do, and then I come back and talking about them is like it could be little things with my kids, like parent events, like stuff like that, where it's like super chaotic, kids running around everywhere, a bunch of parents like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on with this? Blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
it's a
All that
lot.
is, yeah, it's usually it's something that I would have avoided. I would just send their mom or whatever and stay home. But now I'm just doing it, and it's I'm realizing that it's helping me a lot, but like the joy I get from watching my kids be part of this, like growing up in society right now, is just an amazing thing to watch. So I'm pushing myself to do all those things, which it helps me understand my mental health a lot better than I did before. Because as I do these things, like I'm it helps with depression. Naturally, it just helps with being depressed or like feeling ashamed about myself, or the social anxiety factors, like all of that stuff doesn't need to be medicated. Like it can be, and I'm taking some medication to help me with that, but it's nothing like I would have in the past, you know?
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like being there for your kids and like at events and things like that. Like now you get to be present. Like we get to do things when we get sober. Like sure we did a lot of things when we were using and out there, but were they really of importance? You know what I mean? Like now you're doing important things that are going to last a lifetime with your kids. And that's like a really really cool thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the thing too is that um
Brain fart.
yeah. Oh yeah, and then like I used to do things too, like when I was on drugs or high or whatever. I used to do it, but I wasn't really there. Like
Yep.
I didn't experience the true like joy of watching this stuff happen. I numbed myself so that I was able to do it. And now that I'm not numbing myself and doing it, it's just like it's bringing that natural high for me. Watching my kids have a good time, playing sports like I used to love to do, is like the best feeling in the world. And when I was doing that in the past, numb, it wasn't. I wasn't really feeling it, and I wasn't really there. You know what I mean? I was physically
Yeah.
there, but not mentally.
Yeah, not mentally at all. What is the best piece of advice that you would give someone? Say someone's listening and they're struggling with addiction. What would you say to them?
I would say to definitely give yourself a break. You're not a bad person. We made some mistakes, but the best way out of this is to ask for help. It doesn't have to be my road, where I physically had to get away and go to detox and rehab and all that stuff. Asking for help, like doing AA or NA or whatever meeting situation that you fall under or you're comfortable in, is just take the step. You're worth it, and don't the stigma again. It's like that's what
Yeah.
I feel like. Don't feel like you're a bad person because you're not. We're just trying to get better is admirable, and just ask for help. Give yourself a shot.
Yeah, we're not bad people at all. And like you said, that stigma about that is so like on top of everybody. It's so prominent right now in society. People look down upon anybody who is drinking or using drugs, but they don't really comprehend like, okay, this is a disease. Like these are not bad people. This is something that is chemically imbalanced in them. And once you pick up, I mean, it's a real thing, addiction.
Yeah.
Let me ask you
Whenever
this.
I,
Oh yeah.
huh?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, whenever I like now, like I've had people reach out, reach their hand out, and I didn't realize like how good that, like how bad sometimes I needed that. So sometimes, like like I try that today, I try and like help people. Like if I see some, because it is so hard for someone to ask for help, I offer. any help that I can give to somebody I see struggling. I know it well. I struggled for many, many years. So that's how I try and help break this stigma, is just by like offering a hand and seeing, like, making myself available to people and not looking down on them, passing no judgment. Like, maybe they are ready to accept some help, and then I did my part. I did what I could to try and help that person, because I know how terrible and how hard it feels when you're in it and you just see there's like no hope. I was hopeless and helpless, like,
Yeah.
for many years, and that's like the worst place to be.
Yeah, I agree. And what you're doing by giving back is so important, and crucial. Let me ask you, how do you remember your why, your purpose, the path that you're on?
Yeah, my the how I that's like what my life. That's how I choose, like, my perspective and things on life is what my purpose is. Like, I'm finding my purpose. I'm finding my why, like what I've been put on this earth to do. I the biggest part of it is my kids right now. That is like the ultimate, you know, reason for me wanting to, like, I want to get better because I don't want to be in those situations anymore. I want to be productive and stuff like that. But my real why, my purpose of, like, is how I can be the best dad and best person for them. You know, um, they're young. They really look up to me. I'm their superhero, and I don't want to let them down. My dad's sick right now, and that's like, I want, and he was my superhero. So I get it now. Like, they don't
Yeah.
want to see me sick, and I don't want to see me sick. My mom doesn't want to see me sick. There's many, people out there that care about me. But yeah, like, my purpose is ever evolving. I know that I'm on this earth for a reason, and I do have a purpose. I just do my best to be the best person I can, every day, and definitely lead by example for my kids.
So important. And I'm going to end on that note. Thank you, Joe, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This is Remember Your Why. You did great.